Now, while we're talking about Blast, because everything in esports is ridiculous, why don't we talk about, like, the fact that the people that are running a major very soon can't even get simple rules correct. FaZe have a player called Rain, and Rain is a Giga Chad, the real Giga Chad, the original Giga Chad. And if there's one thing Giga Chads like to do, it's make little Giga Chad babies. And so Rain is having a child and needs some time off, needs some paternity leave, you know? Fair enough. This means FaZe need to use a stand-in. This tournament that's live now would overlap with the potential date of the birth of the child. Obviously, not an exact science, but one, you know, you get a rough idea. So they decided that they were going to apply for a stand-in. And what stand-in did they want? Well, they decided they wanted Config. Now, I'm just going to say this. What does it say about our industry that a man who went to a tournament, got out of control drunk, tried to assault someone in a foreign country while representing his organization, got the shit kicked out of him because he can't fight, because he's just an aggressive drunk bum, right? Breaks his leg, can't compete in the upcoming RMR, and costs 4 players their fucking spot at a major, including one player who was dropped by the org and might never play in a major ever again in his career. What he did was unforgivable, and spoiler, actually, while we're here, why don't we bring this up? In the ESL Pro Tour rules, what Config did was actually against the rules, as in, it's not just what you do on server, it's like the behavior. So it violates the behavior rules he signed up to as part of the Louvre Agreement teams. It's in their rule book. It says here, public behavior. There you go. All participants shall abstain at all times from poor, undesirable, or negative behavior. All participants shall abstain at all times from any action or inaction that brings anybody involved with the competition in any way into public disrepute, contempt, scandal, ridicule, or harms public relations or commercial value of any involved party. This can include derogatory comments aimed at ESL, its partners, its products, in interview statements, and or social media channels. They've got loads of rules. They've got stuff about, there's you can't, like, trash a fucking room if you spoil it, blah, blah. There's stuff about using alcohol at the event. Anyway, I didn't have it ready for this particular thing, but if you go and look in the ESL Pro Tour rules, there is a rule specifically that prohibits, like, this sort of public nuisance behavior. And Config, they've not even punished him. So, in other words, you can go to an event, start a fight, fuck over your team, fuck over your fellow players, lie about it in a twit longer, pretending you were the victim when you literally chased after someone. Like, spoiler, by the way, if you chase after someone to attack them and they beat you up, you're having a real tough time selling it as self-defense. Do you know why? Because that ain't self-defense. What he did to you was self-defense. He probably went further than self-defense round about the time your leg broke like a breadstick. Fair enough. But anyway, he has walked back into the 2 of the top teams in the world. He's been given a chance with Heroic just to make some money there to stand in, and FaZe wanted him. No punishments, no penalties. Me, on the other hand, I had a guy who was like Config, called Lauder, running at me, wanting to hurt me, wanting to put hands on me, because Config did it because apparently someone said his tattoos were shit. Oh, Lord have mercy, and didn't want to let him into the bar. Totally their right as a proprietor. I had somebody get upset with a tweet they didn't understand because their pea-brain couldn't fucking figure it out, and their insecurities about their relationship got caught up in it, and so he had to come and be the big man. But unfortunately, you're not a big man. I am a big man, and you got fucking sat. I didn't want to do it. You had plenty of opportunities to fucking not come and invade my personal space, but you decided you wanted to do it. I have been plagued and accused of being an aggressive, violent person, right, when I was simply trying not to get assaulted. I've had that for years. So don't tell me there's not player privilege at play, because I know firsthand. And spoiler, I've also not seen a single person say, I wish Sadikis could come back, and all he did apparently was launch a fucking frisbee at someone. That's how fucking stupid this industry is, that the top teams in the world will give this clown an instant second chance. So they made a request, and it was reported over on Dust 2. Deserto confirmed it. Config was going to be their stand-in for Rain. And so Blast said, yeah, all right, yeah, you can use config. Heroic, when they submitted their sheet, they submitted the same one. Some people, I've heard two versions. Some saying it was just a repeat of the last one and they left config on there and they wanted to use NATO suffix because they're fucking stupid and don't care, obviously. I saw another one saying it was like they thought they had NATO suffix, but they used the wrong sheet, so whatever. Config was registered as Heroic sub, which he didn't know, FaZe didn't know, and Blast didn't seem to know at the time. Then they were like, okay, well, we'll use Olofmeister, who's still loosely affiliated with the org, I guess, still has a contract running out or something. But they didn't tell him. And so he's away traveling and can't make it. So anyway, this ended up becoming this ridiculous thing where Twists had to say publicly, we've been informed for some time now by Blast that we could use him, and suddenly overnight everything changed. So they had actual confirmation from Blast, which Blast have admitted to subsequently, which we'll get to. And so I saw a lot of people saying to FaZe, you should know the rule book on how you submit substitutes. But they don't know who's registered other subs or whatever. I don't know if they've got access to that information. But I'll tell you this, yes, FaZe should definitely know the rules. Do you know who else should know the rules? The fucking tournament organizer running the fucking tournament. It's fucking paramount they know the rules. And so if I'm a team, if I'm a player and I'm lazy and I say to them, oh, listen, man, I don't know the rules, I just turn it and play. Can you tell me what the rules are? If you can't answer that question, what the fuck are you doing running a tournament? You've got to know. And if you're unsure, you better go away and ask instead of getting me some bullshit answer. So that happened. And I saw a tweet. This was a good one from Semler, right, where he played the clip of Olaf basically saying they're going to be tilted.
Why are you not playing Blast? I'm traveling during the weekend, so I can't go. Something that's been planned for a long time because of my birthday. So.
So they thought they'd always have Olaf as the backup, then they didn't. Then Rops weighed in and said, some of these are from World Finals, including Heroics. Apparently, there was only an 8-day notice for the submission, and some didn't reach back in time. Config had no idea either that he's Heroic sub and that he's not supposed to be. This is why it was fine until today, and a team blocked it. Thanks for clarifying. So, essentially what happened, reading between the lines, and Rops isn't a liar, the sheets had come back all fucked up. They hadn't been particularly well organised. Remember, by the way, Blast was super late in announcing the dates, weren't they? We're all, what's happening? Who were the groups? Who's playing? When are they playing? All of this. Then they were like, okay, you can have config. And then when it came back and he was down at Heroic sub, some teams noticed that it breaks protocol and they've complained. Now, no one's publicly said who the team is. I think Heroic might have said it weren't us. Before anyone says anything. I've got my own theory on that. I'll just say, can't imagine Astralis being at their first tournament in a while would want any other team to have it at an advantage. And obviously certainly have good ties with Blast. And Config certainly did fuck them over. Who knows? Who knows? Who knows? I'm only guessing at this point. It would just be guesswork, so... Anyway, Config had a reaction, just question marks, of course. He didn't know what to do. He was faced with a staircase. Then, Blast responded. This is their statement here. Right? We want to acknowledge the confusion that has transpired around the roster lock for the kickoff of the 2023 season. At the beginning of the year, FaZe Clan submitted a roster change for this week's spring groups due to personal reasons. FaZe Clan, I'm adding the two, by the way. They clearly just cobbled this out super quick. FaZe Clan requested the use of config. This request was denied as the player was registered on another team's roster for the event. In that process, there has been confusion around whether this subsequent emergency substitution request was formally accepted and validated by Blast in time for the event. After looking into the incident internally, we identified miscommunication and a lack in clarity from Blast on the roster lock timings and config's eligibility to play in spring groups. So in other words, yes, we fucked up. This, of course, is not how we typically operate, and we will be looking at the strengthening processes and communication with the teams, specifically around roster locks. We are now working closely with FaZe Clan to find a solution and ensure the team is prepared as best possible within these changing circumstances. The team's request for emergency substitutions have been accepted, with Patrick Esatag Hansen stepping in as a stand-in player and Eddie Han as stand-in coach for FaZe Clan in tomorrow's spring group opening against Complexity. Should FaZe Clan face NIP in the spring groups, that's a possibility, Esatag will not be able to play that match, a circumstance that both teams are aware of and have accepted. So what they've done here is to stop a player who's registered with another team in the tournament being a stand-in. They've allowed another player who's registered for another team at the tournament be a stand-in. And with the added caveat that if you play NIP, you can't even use the stand-in. Whereas, at least with Config, he was only ever a stand-in for Heroic. So he wouldn't be under the same type of contract that Esatag is under. Still. Thorin weighed in and made a good point, as Duncan is prone to do. This post is so off in its wording, it's written as if you admit you were in the wrong. But yes, they were. But there's no apology, and the outcome still seems to be FaZe being punished with a worse outcome. Don't acknowledge the confusion. If you fucked up and that's why FaZe doesn't have config, then you owe them an apology. You've reduced their chances. If FaZe fucked up, then stop soft selling it and apply the rules accordingly. And again, this is all you have to do. The rules are there, and just work with the rules. As they say, don't wing it. But no, it's esports, so everything's got to be a clown fiesta. Even a simple registering of a substitute causes this type of damage. So the first tournament of the year, the one we've all been super looking forward to after the break, right? You know, because we ended the year G2, best team in the world. You know? Yeah, you were wrong. Hooksy is the Giga Chad. We ended with that. We want to see more of it. Blast again at the start of the year. We waited, long have we waited. Dongers rise up, all of that. And we get this shit. Like another event where we've got stand-ins and higgledy-piggledy fucking nonsense. It's because of this. And a tournament operator refusing to take responsibility for their fuck-up. Oh, that's just an esports classic. And obviously the teams, you know, they're partnered in these leagues. It's meant to be a fucking venture that they both benefit from. So, you know, they've just got to take it on the chin. Now, spoiler. I think this is a terrible look for esports. I think this is an embarrassment for esports, and my heart goes out to FaZe. But also, it's hilarious that Config doesn't get to play. Fuck you. Fuck you. So, I'm all right with that. But I certainly hope we find out which team decided to have a little fucking snitch, little snitch in a wine. Right, I'd be very interested to see which team it is. Because remember, it was just a team, they said. Although they did put the bracket, I strongly suspect only one team. Because at the end of the day, don't we want all the best Counter-Strike to be played? And they're using the stand-in anyway. They already thought they were getting this one. Blast had already approved it. So, you know, maybe that should supersede the complaint. Really makes you wonder what kind of... You know, they must be a big, powerful entity to make that complaint and sort of get what they want, get their way.